Upon turning professional in 1950 to 1951, Armstrong was assigned to Toronto's American Hockey League (AHL) affiliate, the Pittsburgh Hornets. In 71 games for Pittsburgh, he recorded 15 goals and 48 points. Despite being hampered by hand and wrist injuries suffered in fights, Armstrong was the AHL's leading goal scorer and stood second in points by mid-season in 1951 to 52. He was recalled to Toronto during the season and scored his first NHL goal against goaltender Jerry McNeil of the Montreal Canadiens. It was the first goal ever scored by a player with native heritage. He finished the season with 3 goals and 3 assists in 20 games with Toronto. Though he missed the start of the 1952-53 season due to a separated shoulder, Armstrong earned a permanent spot on the Maple Leafs roster. He quietly established himself as an important contributor for Toronto by recording 25 points that season, then scoring 32 points the following season and 28 in 1954-55. A 48-point season in 1955-56 was second on the team to Todd Sloan's 66. Armstrong then led the Maple Leafs in scoring with 44 points in 1956-1957, despite missing 14 of his team's games. He was named to play in the NHL All-Star Game in both seasons. They were the first 2 of 7 he ultimately played. Armstrong poses for a studio shot in his Maple Leafs uniform. His sweater features a C patch, denoting he was captain of his team. Armstrong was named captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs during the 1957-58 season. The Maple Leafs named Armstrong the team's captain in 1957-58, as he succeeded Ted Kennedy and Jim Thompson, who served as co-captains the season before. He finished 4th in team scoring with 42 points, then played his 3rd All-Star game during the 1958-59 season. He recorded 4 assists in the playoffs as the Maple Leafs reached the 1959 Stanley Cup Final, but lost to the Montreal Canadiens. With 51 points in 1959-1960, Armstrong finished 1 behind Bob Pulford for the team lead. Toronto again reached the Stanley Cup Final, where they were again eliminated by Montreal. The Maple Leafs finally reached the NHL's peak 2 seasons later. Armstrong set a career high with 53 points in the 1961-62 regular season, then added 12 points in 12 playoff games for Toronto. He started the play that resulted in the Stanley Cup clinching goal, rushing the puck up the ice before passing to Tim Horton, who then passed to goal scorer Dick Duff, that capped off a 2-1 victory in the 6th and deciding game of the series against the Chicago Blackhawks. As Maple Leafs captain, Armstrong was presented the trophy by league president Clarence Campbell. It was the first of 3 consecutive championships for Toronto, as the Maple Leafs of 1962 to 1964 became the 4th dynasty in NHL history. Individually, Armstrong scored 21, 19, and 20 goals over the 3 seasons, and by virtue of the NHL's All-Star Game format of the time, that had the defending champion play the All-Stars of the remaining teams, appeared in his 4th, 5th, and 6th All-Star games. Early in the 1963-64 season, on December 1st, 1963, Armstrong scored his 200th career NHL goal. A 37-point season followed in 1964-65, then 51 points in the 1965-66 season. By 1966-67, Armstrong led an aging Maple Leafs team that entered the playoffs as an underdog against a dominant Chicago team. The Maple Leafs nonetheless eliminated the Blackhawks in 6 games to set up the 1967 Stanley Cup Final against Montreal. The Canadiens were so confident of victory that a display area for the Stanley Cup had been set up at the Quebec Pavilion at Expo 67 prior to the series' start. The Maple Leafs dashed Montreal's hopes by winning the championship in 6 games. Armstrong scored the final goal of the series in a 3-1 victory in the deciding contest. It was also the last goal scored in the NHL's original 6 era, as the league was set to double in size to 12 teams for the 1967-68 season. Armstrong poses for a photographer while wearing his full Maple Leafs uniform. Armstrong with the Maple Leafs during the 1970-71 season. He retired at the end of that season. Armstrong announced his intention to retire as a player following the championship, but changed his mind and returned for another season. The Maple Leafs placed him on their protected list for the 1967 expansion draft, and he remained with Toronto. He played in his 7th All-Star game in 1968, and finished the season with 34 points. Retiring the following season, before changing his mind, became an annual event for Armstrong, as he announced his intention to leave the game in 5 straight years. He remained a consistent scorer for Toronto, recording 27, 28, and 25 points in his following 3 seasons. He finally ended his playing career after the 1970-71 season to take an office position in the Maple Leafs. And also, he finished his career with 296 goals, 4 goals away from obtaining 300. At the time of his retirement, Armstrong was second to Dick Clapper for the longest tenure as a team captain in NHL history.